Hey everyone, it's Kingstown Ferrets here. We're going to run through our latest update as well as answer a few of your questions. Remember, if you've got any questions or if you've got any requests for next week's video, do pop them into the comments below and I'll try my best to cover them. So let's get started. So we've got 3 gills that we've selected for breeding and ferretry this year. We've got Binky, who's our semi-Angora. She's a silver mitt. We've got Cookie, who's a standard sable ferret, and we've got Mushroom, who's our sable, also a semi-Angora. So these 3 lovely girls, they've been paired with a mixture of standard and full Angora ferrets, so we are expecting a mixture of kids in the standard and Angora or semi-Angora hairline. We're only about 2 weeks into the pregnancy, so there's not an awful lot to show for it visually at the moment, but we are keeping an eye on the weight and we expect a good solid steady weight gain from here on. This chart gives you an idea of where we're expecting the weight to go over the next few weeks, through to the end date after a 42-day gestation period. Whilst they're not showing anything particularly physical at the moment, they are getting a little bit mumsy. Some of them are getting a little bit broody and a little bit more grooming of the others and showing a bit more mumsiness. But that's about it for now. And we'll show you more significant features as they get older in future updates. So a few weeks ago, we took the rest of our gills and hobs that we weren't planning to breed to the vets to get hormone implants to take them out of season. And the girls have pretty much come out of season now. But the boy, Bean, he's taking a little bit longer and he's still a little bit frisky with the girls. So he's still living on his own over in the separate area. Now, whilst the most of the breeding season has been fairly uneventful up to now, we did have 2 rather unusual occurrences. Typically, neutering a ferret will mean that they have absolutely no interest in the gills, whether they're in season or not, but we had 2 scenarios which we've not come across before. Firstly, this guy, Boggis, he was castrated last season, which means he should have absolutely no interest, but he did actually fully pair and tie with one of our gills who was in season earlier on in February, I think. And whilst it's not going to result in any kits, it was a bit annoying because once you do pair with the gills, it starts to bring them out of season because they think that's it, they've done. And they go into a phantom pregnancy. So that was a bit strange. And secondly, this guy, Bourneville, he's got the hormone implant at the moment. And whilst that means he's not showing any signs of being in season, but out of the blue, out of nowhere, came into the enclosure one day and he also was paired and fully tied with one of the gills in season. So, yeah, two strange occurrences which really shouldn't be happening, but yeah, bit of a funny season this year. So another thing that happens around about breeding season is that they start to transition from their winter phase into their summer phase. That means 2 things. It means that they start to lose a bit of their winter fat, so they start to lose weight, especially the boys. You can see here, Boggis, he's becoming a little bit more slender, a little bit more slinky than he would otherwise be. He's usually quite stocky. And the second thing is that they start to lose their winter fluff. So they have nice thick winter coats at the moment. Especially the semi-Angoras and the Angoras. But they'll start to shed this and they'll bring in their summer coat, which is much finer and quite short and glossy. Not really seen any of this yet, and they're not particularly molting in any fashion. So it'll be probably a few weeks until we start seeing that come in, but that's what we're looking out for now. That's pretty much it for the update for this week. So let's cover a few of the questions that we've been asked on our media channels. So first off, we've got Magic Nissy, who asked, why do they have to be separated off with babies? Would the others get aggressive, or is it just that you want to monitor them more closely? What would happen in the wild? Well, there's a few points here. Firstly, in the wild, A ferret's wild ancestor is a polecat, which is a solitary animal. So in the wild, they wouldn't be with any others. They would just be on their own. So there's no separation concept there. The other points, in terms of why we separate them in domestication, is that we have quite a varied enclosure with runs and things everywhere, and the mums would just take them to places which are entirely inappropriate for kits who are trying to escape their little nest box all the time, and they might fall down through tunnels or not find places where they couldn't be found. Generally just get themselves into a bit of trouble. So we move them into small, compact nursery cages, which is safe for them. It drives the mums nuts, but it's the best thing for mating kits. The other thing is that whilst the kits are very small, they're not easily able to find their way to their mum. And if there was another big hob or a number of other adults which are all congregating together and sitting in a big pile, then they could just sit on and squish, or at least act as a significant barrier between the kits and getting to their mum and the milk. So we just want to avoid any of that interaction, any of that challenge, and make sure the mum's on her own with the kits and she can easily find them and they can obviously easily find her. Next question from Erica Marie. Can male ferrets be together when they are in season, or will they fight? Well, there's quite a range of characters, as you might imagine. You get everything from those who get extremely aggressive in rut and those who don't really care at all. And mine tend to be on the latter end. They don't mind too much, so they don't fight with each other. But what they do get is a little bit randy and to attempt to hump each other all the time, and that just causes it a bit of annoyance. And so most of the time we keep them separate. We allow them to play a little bit during the day, and when we see it getting a little bit beyond friend zone, we split them up again. But generally speaking, most hobs in rut are kept in isolation. Victoria Schmeck asks, I met a person who said she currently has a ferret produced by a polecat crossed with a domestic ferret. Do breeders ever outcross polecats for diversity, maybe? Well, the answer is yes. And we have Pickles here, who was bred with a wild polecat in captivity, and she produced a lovely litter of which we kept Bourneville and Yazoo here. Outcrossing wild polecats with ferrets is great for the genetic pool of ferrets. Of course, it brings in some of the undesirable traits of a wild animal, such as skittishness and general solitary natures. My lovely dog asks, do you move them inside in winter months? Well, no, we don't. They live out here in this enclosure 24/7 and 12 months of the year. Ferrets are native to the UK and to Northern Europe, and so they're well adept at dealing with the temperatures that we have in the winter months here. They have plenty of nest boxes and hidey holes in which they can sleep and keep warm. Thunder GSD asks, how long does a male rut season last? Well, it lasts about 6 months. They tend to react to the changing daylight hours. So in the winter, when the daylight starts to get longer, at the deepest part of the winter, they start to come into season. And in the height of the summer, after the daylight has reached its peak, then again, they start to come out of season. And Salford Liam asks, what is the biggest hob you've got? Hang on a minute. So here we've got two of our biggest. We've got Rumble, he's a full Angora, and we've got Boggis here, who's a standard ferret. Now Rumble is probably slightly bigger because he weighs 2 kilograms and Boggis is slightly under, maybe 1.8, 1.9. But I think Boggis is maybe a longer ferret, a bit bigger of a ferret, just not as chunky and as weighty as Rumble here. But Rumble is in full season, so he puts on a bit more weight in the season, whereas Boggis has been castrated, so he naturally loses a bit of weight now. Well, that's it for this week's video. Do pop your questions in the comments below if you want them covered next week, and do like and subscribe to support the channel.